Rocco, our favorite rock. Rocco, 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 our favorite rock.
Entertained? Are you not entertained?
All right. Okay. Let me get this going. Here we go. Move that over. Okay. I should play a Paul intro just for Paul. He was such a big Intel guy for all this time. All right. Well, I think you've all heard by now that Intel's earnings were complete and utter disaster. Okay. So let's just look at the price action first, because there's some stuff that happened which I didn't even know it was today. I'm not Intel. I mean, if you know me, I'm the furthest thing from a person that is buying Intel. I've been against this as an investment probably from the entire time I've had a YouTube channel. I've mentioned it in many videos. You should stay away from this. I'm not going to call it a value trap, but it was a concerning investment, I think, for a long time, and it's playing out kind of what the concerns were. I think so. You can see here, you're talking a 25% obliteration if this holds up tomorrow between today and after market. 25% on something that was cheap, right? This was a cheap stock. Everyone told you it was cheap and you should buy it because the dip can't keep dipping, because you can plug it into your middle school DCF and it says you should buy it. Well, the dip keeps dipping, right? And things happen in this company that could have happened to a company doing massive infrastructure building that they're doing. So there is, I'm going to share, if you go to Wall Street Bets, you can't make this up. I really hope, I wish he was joking. I really wish this guy was joking. So where'd it go? Is it buried now? Oh no. Okay, wait a minute. There might be a bunch of meme stocks. No. Wait a minute. Okay. So this guy, I should say, all right, you know what? I need to save this because this is legendary. Okay. This guy, sad nefariousness 10. So it happened 10 hours ago. He dumped $700,000 that he inherited from his grandma today into Intel. Of all the times to do it, today. And he lists what he liked about Intel. 2024 Q1, up 9% year on year. Oh, gee golly, great. Heavily investing in infrastructure. Yes. Okay, we'll talk about that. Building out domestic foundries. Yes, they are. Absolutely. Intel 3 in production. Okay, cool. Leading edge semiconductors being manufactured in the US first time. Not yet. That's not true. They hope to, okay, with heavy government investment, mind you. Okay, Intel can't do this on their own, which a lot of companies need government help with these massive projects. So that's not the worst thing in the world. Position itself to be the largest semiconductor manufacturer in the US is massive. I mean, we haven't done this in a long time. I mean, massive should be changed to risky, because this stuff's been outsourced out of the US for a long time now because of international trade. So it is risky to try and bring it back here, right? And Texas Instruments building foundries in the US. Taiwan Semi is building infrastructure in the US. A lot of it's because of COVID, which made, it was concerning, right? It affected a lot of things like supplies and transportation in the world. So we had logistics issues. So you want to bring it closer to home, let's say, where your customers are. On track, to exceed its forecast of 40 million AI PCs shipped by the end of 2024. He's being very positive and optimistic. Okay. Gaudi AI accelerators projected to deliver 50%. See, he's making a lot of assumptions. This is what I would tell this guy. You made a lot of assumptions that you probably thought in your brain were facts or confirmed, or you just gave more belief to it than I would. A lot of the, like half of what he's put here for why he bought it, I would say are risky or pretty grand assumptions you're making as fact. So he's assuming that this will be implemented by the industry, this Gaudi 3 AI accelerator. And he's not giving the fact that it's going to be tough to get market share back because they've been losing market share for a while from AMD and NVIDIA. So the fact that they have a new processor and you're making assumptions that it's able to deliver these specs, you don't know. And you don't know if companies will take this. Is Meta going to buy this or Google or somebody? So there's a lot of assumptions being layered on with this guy. We already know what happened. He's going to take probably $150,000 haircut tomorrow when this opens. This is like, I agree. This is the one bull case. This is the bull case for Intel, right? If tensions with China heat up and something happens, God, I hope not, in Taiwan, Intel could benefit from that because they're here. Whereas AMD and NVIDIA rely on Taiwan to produce their chips. All right. But I have a history degree. I was in the military. I'm not that concerned about China invading Taiwan. It's my opinion. The U.S. Navy I think, would just rock anything the Chinese would throw at Taiwan, besides maybe a bunch of cruise missiles. But for them to do like a naval landing, it would have to be a naval landing on par with Normandy to do this. And there's no proof that Chinese are even capable of that. And it was one of the most difficult tasks in human history, the Normandy invasion, the fact that it worked. Largest naval landing ever. So you're giving a lot of credit to a country that's never done something like that. So, I mean, embargo, how are they going to block the island without the U.S. responding? I think it's kind of, this bull case is kind of silly, I think. And I don't know why you think China would even do this. Russia's not winning. So how do they feel about, their chances in Taiwan with their technology versus Western military tech? I mean, they're watching what's happening in Ukraine right now. Western tech is kicking, the Russians' butt, even though they're outmanned. And then here we go. Value investors destroying retail people, as I've tried to say lately. I like the stock and I think it's cheap because that's why we buy stocks, right? We buy stocks because they're cheap. I mean, that's in the end. So that's your first thesis, right? It's cheap. Apparently that's a thesis to invest in a company nowadays. Value investor strong. So he got obliterated. And there's a lot of jokes you can go read. And people made videos. Poor guys. So let's play. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, Dan, you're just bashing this because it went down. Okay, you can say that. So we'll go. So here's a video. I've talked about Intel a few times. So here's a video. The date is June 15th, 2023. So I talked about it. Okay, let me get to the part I wanted to. Intel. Okay, here we go. In like a 2-horse race. It's AMD versus NVIDIA. Intel's not even on the board yet, all right, for AI chips. So they're the two players in this. NVIDIA has a dominating position in this space. Right now, AMD's releasing their chips that they say are better, and so there's going to be a war between the two. Should you pick sides? I don't know. If you know something, I mean, both of those companies are so highly valued right now. I don't know. I don't think they're going to go down. I think this could go on for a year or two, this AI race. Don't just be like, look, .com went on for longer than you think. It wasn't just in one day that it all went bust. So don't assume when these things are going to go down. This could go on for a while. If you're shorting or doing puts, okay, it's overvalued. But now you have to put a time frame on when that overvaluation will get recognized by the markets and they'll start going down. Why would you do that? I don't think you should short or puts just based on valuation. You should only do it if you have some thesis about why the company is in trouble? Do they have accounting issues? Is there something? Do you think the CEO is hiding something? Is their business corrupt? I don't know. Are they hiding like that valuation? AMD is a superior company to Intel in every way. So don't kid yourself about that. Now here's Intel. Intel promises AI data center chip in 2025. So NVIDIA is producing. AMD's got chips coming out this year. They say are better, but who knows? So who knows what generation chip AMD will be in by 2025. And here's Intel just delaying it. And this is the earliest. They could delay it again. They're still building fabs. They have these AI chips they haven't even started to build yet. They have all these things that have to happen for them to succeed. And the stock's gone up. Okay. I guess people think that it's all going to happen. If you believe all these things Intel's saying are going to happen, then sure, the stock could be a buy. You're taking a lot of risk, I think. I wouldn't buy it, not until they get close to building the fabs. And then I see the finish line on that, because that's the rebound. I think that's the redemption for Intel, is those fabs in the US, more chip demand in the world, onshoring, national security interests of the US. So this is good. So that was my take a year ago, almost a total year ago. Well, 13 months ago. I told you in a bunch of words, I said, you should wait. I said this in other videos. You should wait until they are almost done or done with the foundries. So we're near the finish line. Then, because I was concerned, everyone had these very grandiose assumptions that like, they were taking management word where they're like, we're going to have these foundries done on this date. We're going to start producing chips on this date. We're going to have customer orders on this date. And I'm like, it's a lot of assumptions layered on top of each other. Things can go wrong. We knew back then, 13 months ago, you knew they had to get government assistance to do this, which was, it took a little bit of time to get that CHIP Act funding. And even when they passed the law, it still took a while to get the funds, actually. So I continue to say, I think you're making huge mistakes buying this company until you get to the bullish case, which is the foundries being done. They actually start getting foundry clients and customers, which they have to take away from somebody. These customers aren't just out there floating. These customers are working with other businesses, right? Samsung, Taiwan Semi, I don't know, one of the other, or the producers. So they got to take that business away from them. Okay. So if you bought this company and you're down a lot, I think you made a crappy choice. I think you made mistakes. I think you should have waited. You could have just waited and let all this stuff play out, because there was so much risk involved in what Intel's doing right now. And you didn't have to hold the stock. You didn't have to hold it. You could have just watched them go, and you could have seen how close they were coming to the finish line. Are they on track? How's the timeline? Are they burning cash too fast? How's the budget on the foundries? Are they going over budget? You could have just watched all this. I mean, I don't understand why people were such a rush to buy this. You could have waited, right? And even when it went up to $36, and then people got excited and they're like, oh, it's on its way to 60. I started seeing these crazy valuations. I'm like, the challenges are still there for this company until they get to the completion line of these foundries to start producing for customers. And you overlooked that, and you got burnt, and you deserved to get burnt. So tomorrow you can take your freaking, you can take your bloodbath, because you kind of deserve it as a retail investor. I think you made big mistakes. So do you want to hold it now? Because I'm looking at the timelines. They're saying like 2027 is when they're going to start producing. That's okay. What if it's 2028, 2029? These things can get extended. You might be bag holding this stock for 5-6 years. It's just the truth of it at this point. Or you could sell it for a loss and move on. But you have to decide what to do with your errors. So showing here, I've been negative on this company for a while, right? Over a year, I've been negative on Intel. I would tell you not to buy it. So there you go. Now I can show you who wanted you to buy it. Let's go. Who wanted you to buy this stock, right? So where'd it go? Oh, not that one. Okay, I will try again. Nope. Stop screen. Wrong one. Okay. Here we go. Oh, look who wanted you to buy this stock, though. Who loved this stock? Your favorite value investor, Paul. Paul's been telling you for like 2 years you should buy Intel. And then he was bragging about selling it, even though we knew from my portfolio reviews, he's owned Intel for a long time. So the timeframes we know he was buying it from my portfolio review 1 and 2 of him. Intel was like $60, $50, $60 a share. Then he said he sold it for 40, but magically he made a profit on the stock. So whatever you want to believe, he won't show anything. So he's been very positive. Why is he positive? He doesn't know anything about foundries. I don't work in this industry either, so I'm not going to say anything, but he never looked at the business. He just looked solely at the numbers and what management was telling and spoon feeding you. That's all. That's what he thinks value investing is. This is value investing to Paul. He looks at quarterly returns and he draws his lines, right? He makes weird assumptions and then he just throws projections on the screen. And I go, okay, here's his projections. He put revenue growth assumptions 369. So we can look. Okay. That video was, let me get the time frame, 1 year ago. So if I go back a year, I can tell you basically revenue growth is flat. All right. So July of last year, we were at about 12.9 billion. We're at 12.8 billion. So the answer is in 1 year, revenue is 0. So he's making assumptions in 1 year are already wrong. Even the 3%, which, so this is very concerning. And he does, like, and you look at the top, you see he made a 10-year analysis of these numbers. He's already wrong in year 1. This is going off the rails. He should have even known. Why would you even do a linear projection of Intel? If you looked at Intel when he did this a year ago, you knew that they were building foundries, which means huge CapEx spending to build these things. And then at some point within 10 years, the foundries would be complete. And now you'd have a different set of assumptions. If you were going to model it like this, you would need to do a 2-stage model to do this. That's what I would do first. There are 2-stage models. Okay. I have them for dividend investments. You can't do a 1-stage model of this company. If you looked at what Intel was trying to do, like he's wrong from the start, the way he did this. So he loved it because the PE said it was cheap. That's why Paul loved this company. And then let's see what price is.
Now for PE, I'm going to go with 13, 16, and 19. Because if they get this high 9%, they're probably ROIC and their moat will be pretty high. So I'm going to pay a premium for that. If they get the 6%, low price of 25.
So this is funny. Like, so even his low, he's still wrong. So he had 25. Let's go 25 to 60, right? But the actual in the first year, we're not even on the board, because if he had done another one to the left, 0, what would we be at? Like $19. So his assumptions were totally wrong, right? So in the first year, it's probably only going to get worse because they're having problems with this foundry construction. And you should be very concerned if you own the stock. And if you say, oh, it's cheap now, wait, but it was cheap before. So you bought it because it was cheap at 30. So is it cheap now at 22? I'm losing track of the value calculation that you guys do. So is it super duper cheap now? Is that how we buy stocks as retail investors? Go for it. Okay. Go for it because it's cheap, but the dip can keep dipping. And this is what happened to you. Let's see any comments. Ryan, don't let Pat Gelsinger ever manage your money. And this should be like a warning sign that I get when these companies flounder. Like, everyone is so glowingly positive about the CEO that comes in these value trap companies, or like these companies like this. Like, oh, Pat Gelsinger is a savior. And I'm like, what is so great about this guy? Oh, he's great. He's a great CEO pick. It's like nobody could explain why he was such a great CEO pick to me. And I'm like, I had never heard of him before. And I kind of doubted that whole thing. I'm like, I didn't particularly think he was the man for the job. But everyone's like, oh, yeah, Pat Gelsinger. And they're paying him a lot of money to right now fail pretty spectacularly. It's been dying since 2017. Rise Intel buyback. Another reason, like, I don't buy Intel products. I haven't bought Intel products for any of my computers. None of my friends do for a long time now. We just don't. AMD is superior products, right? Now, that's desktops and gaming, so I don't know about the data centers, but we can look at the metrics. AMD has been taking, and NVIDIA have been taking Intel's Porsche data center business. I've covered this for some time. So we know the answer there. That's failing everywhere. And then let's see. Intel is a small part of my portfolio. I was dead wrong on it. Okay. It's small portion, you know, small portion's fine. You're just bashing this because it's down. Okay, cool. I know you. Notice how companies that are really government prop ups have terrible track records. That's the other thing that I kind of was concerning to me. Like Boeing, right? What are companies that the government, you would say, props up in America? Boeing, like these are like can't fail companies. Boeing, General Motors, you would say, and then you would say Intel. Intel is, the government will not let it fail. Like that's the one positive. Like I really, like the US government has to have Intel because they produce our defense chips. It's the only one, it's the only game in town. But that doesn't mean it's a good investment. So is GM a good investment? The only way GM goes up now is if they do massive share buybacks. That's the only reason it's done well recently. It's because they're just buying back huge amounts of the company. It's crazy. Intel's doubled to $50 and it has crashed in half since December. Oh my God. Tech margin selling toasted plants. That's funny. The reason Buffett avoids tech stocks, there's so much competition. If you think competitive moats. Yes, very much so. I don't usually buy, other than AMD, any other tech investments I have are usually ETF based. Tell me it's small caps for 50% in August. Today I felt like getting a new bear market. It's funny though, because if you from the beginning of this year, I increased my small cap in my retirement accounts 2%. I took 2% away from large cap. So I have a feeling that thesis will play out well in the second half of the year, I think maybe. Small changes, not making big changes. Okay, I got to move on. Wait. Funny how AMD is better than Intel, but Intel products are more expensive. Having time to something make AMD's chips set it in-house is so cost efficient. That's the other, it's like every day, like I don't even know if Intel's business model, when I look at it, does Intel's business model even make sense? Because nobody's doing that. AMD split from Global Foundries because AMD used to be just like Intel. Well, years and years ago, probably over a decade ago now, AMD split their design business from their foundry. That's why there's two separate companies. I don't know if Intel could do that. I think the US government might block that for national security interests. But I don't know if Intel's business model even makes sense, how they have a design side and then they're going to have a foundry business under one roof. So that's like your first, like, how does that make sense in this modern world? Jensen Huang and Lisa Su get up every day and all they think about is design of their chips, right? That's it. Like Jensen Huang in interviews, he's like always just thinking about like better chips and design. He doesn't have to worry about stupid crap like logistics and manufacturing, right? His brain is solely focused on innovation. Intel can't do that. He's got to, and then he has to decide, okay, where's the CapEx go? Some of it's got to go to the foundry. Some goes to the design people. Some goes to this part. He's got to split all this money up more. Whereas AMD and NVIDIA don't have that decision. They know exactly what they are. One single focused company, which, well, I know AMD also does like gaming and stuff, not just data center, but design. So how do you think Intel is going to catch up on that side? And then let alone they have to finish these foundries and get customers to come in the door. Okay. Lots of risk, lots of problems that you didn't have to take. You could have just waited till they finished. But I don't want to go too long with this. We'll go here. You know, surprisingly, Seeking Alpha doesn't have the updated financials. I can't believe it. So I pay for it. This is a free friggin' website and they have it already. It's like, oh, come on. So I mean, we'll go to this first, but they're doing, so as you know, massive cost reductions. So losses, I mean, you can see it. Everything's a disaster. Here we go. so that you can see part of it. Yeah. Client computing is the only thing that went up. It's like, oh Lord, data center down, network down, Foundry's losing money, more money. Everything is just a mess. They're taking on debt. They're burning cash. You can look at their balance sheet. So cash is going down, debt is going up. I mean, this is not sustainable. And they have their Foundry projects have expanded from what I can tell. So you can look, some of their Foundry projects are getting bigger, which means they're going to cost more money. So here, the $20 billion project, Fab 52 and 62, a generic contractor. So this stuff's getting bigger and more expensive. I'm sure with inflation, that's making these foundries that they started with cost estimates in 2020. So now we're 4 or 5 years later with inflation. I guarantee you these construction estimates have blown up for these projects. So we have promises they're going to start some of it 25, and then I saw 27, and that's very hopeful. And you could see in the call, I mean, the call, like, I didn't listen to the call fully. I didn't have time, but okay, we're Foundry. But like some of the analysts were on top. They're like, how do you plan to stay? You're doing huge cost cutting. So how are you going to stay on track with your Foundry projects to get these things complete when you're cutting costs at the same time? So I don't think he had particularly great answers in the transcripts that I was reading. So even here, this guy, but I hear more a lot outsourcing to Taiwan Semi, even in real time, is the cut more that some of your Foundry customers are maybe structurally deciding that they're not as committed. That's the other thing. I think people made assumptions that as soon as they open these foundries, they're just going to have customers come in the door. I'm like, what if they have to fight for these customers and offer them discounts, and then they don't make what they assume they were going to make when they built these things? All right. So these are questions you should ask. Like, none of this is easy. This is very hard. So he's going to have to, I mean, he's got a lot of answers for this, and they're going to cut 15% of their 50% layoffs. Who's getting laid off? Again, is it Foundry people getting laid off? Are engineers getting laid off that help design, the chips? What chips? Which engineers? So big question. That's a big chunk of their workforce. Massive cost cutting. So here's their presentation. I mean, guiding down. Oof, not great. A lot of negative numbers here. So this is just whatever. And I know people say, "Whoa, oh, look, this is when you buy when YouTubers are negative." It's like, well, I've been negative for a year. So, okay, cool. Well, the dip can keep dipping. But then the other part, it could just go flat. Like, it could just do nothing for the next 3 years until something changes. Like, I don't know, they finish the foundries and they have customers, they can actually start building these chips. So here we go. And then this is disturbing. You can see the Foundry is getting worse, right? The losses. So the losses are getting bigger at the Foundry. Concerning. A lot of lost business. This was it looks like this was the one nice thing. They had some decent growth in the Mobileye. Okay. But they did split that off. Earnings per share, disaster. So there's Intel. Suspended the dividend. They should have just cut the dividend when they reduced it last year. I thought like they should have been in survival mode because their whole strategy is based on huge expenditures of capital to build these foundries. So I'm like, their whole business should be devoted to that end. Like I thought Pat Gelsinger should just at that point just been like, guys, we're in crisis mode. The whole like business is on the line. We have to get these things done as fast and as cheaply as possible. These foundries start getting customer orders. Like dividend gone, share buybacks. We're not doing that. All cash is to this one purpose. They didn't do that. He did like a half-assed trying to appease everyone. And what happened? He screwed up. So now they're finally doing what they should have done back then. They suspended the dividend. They should have just said we're terminating the dividend because this implies it's coming back. So again, we're waffling. Like he should have said terminate. So suspend, ridiculous. But we will see. And here we go. Operating capital expenditure reductions of more than 10 billion in 2025 compared to previous estimates. Okay, but you need that money to build this stuff, right? The people and this cost cutting, right? Is this going to delay the timelines that they have established? Good chance of that. So, but they're trying to save themselves before it gets too bad. But reducing capex, so you can read that. I mean, in the end, I think you should wait. Until they get closer to completion, and then they actually can prove that customers want to actually build with them. It's my opinion, which I've had for a while. You can see here, year on year down data center, which that's if you just read, AMD doubled its data center business from year on year from their earnings right a few days ago, doubled. Let's look at Intel, down. And I've been saying this for a while, like that's why I even have a meme of Lisa Su holding a lunch bag with Intel on it, because AMD just takes their lunch all the time, and they haven't turned that around either. They're still losing business. So Nvidia is just crushing everyone. So it's that's obvious, but it's just funny. I mean, if you want more detail on the specific numbers, go ahead and look more. But it's a disaster of a company right now, I think, with a lot of problems, a lot of headwinds. So I think sit on the sidelines and watch and see what happens at the end. So I hope they succeed, because it's the only American company we have in this space. I don't want them to fail, but I don't know if their business model makes sense, having all of it under one roof. I don't think it works. So we'll see. But anybody have anything? You're investing again. Microsoft had a decade-long going nowhere run. Yes, they did. Until they changed. Finally, they got the right structure for their business, right? Because selling a box of Windows software to you as a PC, that wasn't a great business. But now subscription-based. And then they got into video games and stuff. And then it started all to click for them. So yeah. I think, I don't know if do retail people think they think things go up or down. It's a lot of stocks can just go sideways for a long time. That's the other alternative. It's not implying that they think it's either going, vertical line or bankrupt. That's not the only options. It just can go, it can just meander and exist. That's to me, it's even a worse. At least if it goes bankrupt, that gives you some finality that you can move on. But you have these companies that meander, and you lose, then you gain. This is what I think SoFi is going to end up being. It goes up, goes down, goes up. It's just going to hover in this meandering, nowhere, while the indexes just do their thing and go 7-10% every year. And they're always going to be tempted to hold it because they think it's always about their time. Funny, AMD is better. Oh, you already put this. Okay. What up, Lincoln? 2 uploads in 2 straight days. So I wasn't planning on doing an upload, but I couldn't help myself when I saw the Intel just destruction. They're in crisis mode now. I think finally, I thought they should have been in crisis mode a year ago. So I think they're in crisis mode now. So I'll give them that. I think they're doing their damnedest now. All right. Cutting costs, cutting the dividend, focusing, getting this done. But you should read, if you're in this, you should read or listen to it. I like to read the calls because I can do it faster than listening sometimes. I know I could speed up the call, but it's just easier to do this on breaks. But read the parts where it talks about Foundry. And I think just be careful that you make assumptions. They have timelines, right? Will those timelines actually happen? Don't assume management tells you that they're going to start producing this or that at a certain date. How do you have to put some level of doubt or risk in there that it won't happen. And don't give Pat Gelsinger any benefit of the doubt, because he hasn't earned it. Nothing has gone right really since he started at Intel. I'd say it's been a pretty abject failure so far, his tenure. Maybe it works out in the end, but so far, I don't know why you give him benefit of any doubt with anything he says. I think you should question it. But if you just sit on the sidelines and wait till they finish these dang things, then you don't have to worry about those risks, right? Then it's different risks. It's an execution risk at that point. They're built, and you'll know how they built them. Did they build them with debt and government assistance? how's the operating cash flows, right? Because right now the foundry business is losing money like crazy. Do you wait till that actually turns to profitable? I mean, that's something you could think about. I don't think you're going to miss out on a lot of gains by waiting on that. Honestly, I think that's when you'll see any sort of positive activity. But all right. Other than that, like we had talked, and then there's this allegedly nothing so far, but there is talk of Intel selling defective chips that apparently some gamers have found crash their systems for multiple reasons. Tom's Hardware had some stories on this. So there's this in the background. That's I don't, if they already are losing money. I mean, you can go look at their finances. Like if we go look at their cash flow, right? Go down. Oh, they changed this a lot. Operating cash flow. Okay. No, not that part. Wow, this looks different than it was before. Okay, free cash flow. I mean, they're right. Cash burning. I mean, nobody's surprised this. They're building all these facilities. It's costing tens of billions of dollars. So, and then I talked about this with Bacon. They bought all these machines, and so this was earlier this year. These are like the most advanced machines in the world, which great. Sounds great. They bought them, but like they're $370 million machines. We're not sure if they paid that. I guess that's a sticker price. They might have paid more than that, but they bought like the entire production. So around 5 or 6 units, right? 5 or 6 units, 370. That's the sticker price. So maybe they paid a little more, let's say. So they spent a lot of money on these machines that don't do anything for Intel. And I kind of was like, that's kind of strange that they bought all of them. And then I know they have to put these right in foundries and start producing. But, you could just wait and see how they implement it. That's what I would tell you. So here we go. Yeah, Intel's foundry business, I think this is old news. They lost $7 billion last year. When this came out, I know the stock got hit a bit. So defective. People are going to cry about this part, but here you go. So that's my opinion on Intel. I think you bought this stock. If you owned it, I think you bought it because you think you're a Warren Buffett value investor. You could throw it in your DCF and it showed you green numbers or positive numbers. And you thought, gee, golly, it's cheap. It's a value. I'm going to buy it. Look what's happened to these people like that. These same people bought, PayPal, which is kind of recovering, but still you bag held it for a while. Baba, these were the value stocks, and they've treated you terribly as an investor. And I don't know why people buy stocks like this. You could just index and then take some chances on some interesting growth companies that have, maybe they have bigger tangible markets in the future or surprise positive news. I used that term from yesterday. But Dan, Intel is actually better than the SoFi. If you gave me I don't know. If I had to buy one or the other right now, I don't know, man. That's a tough call. Clearly, it is DEI immigrants and World Club to kill Intel. I'm sure you could find that on Twitter right now if you go look hard enough. Tons of YouTubers are bashing Intel right now. Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm not a big fan of doing these normally because I feel like I'm doing what a lot of people. But this is one company I particularly have talked about many times where I'm like, I think it's not the right time. I don't understand why you would buy this company at this point. It's too much risk. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of expensive things that have to get done. And they have 2 monster companies above them and 2 rock star CEOs. And I seriously doubt that they have the guns to compete with AMD and NVIDIA on design. And then you see Foundries is kind of a lot of question marks with this Foundry business, a lot of questions. And, see if other YouTubers answer the question, like, where are they going to take the customers? Because they don't have customers. There's no identified customers yet. I mean, I know they haven't started, but who are they taking these customers from? And are they going to have to give them discounts, incentivize them to come? Or like nobody's thought these pieces out before you bought them. You think Intel find new CEO? I mean, they're paying Pat Gelsinger a lot of money. I bet his golden parachute is huge. They probably can't afford to. That's a call for the board, right? Like, I don't know enough about what he's specifically doing. Like, I question his plan that he put out there. And if it's not working, then he should be like the plan he put out for Intel's future. If it starts becoming clear that that's not working, he should lose his job. Just like the Starbucks CEO, he put out a plan, like an execution plan for Starbucks to come back. So far, it's been failure, right? The first quarter it's just not working. If it continues to not work soon, he should probably be fired too. But that's up to them, shareholders. I won't be a shareholder either one of those companies. I think you should cut. They suspended it. They didn't terminate it yet. So they'll give him until the foundries are built, maybe 2 years. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Unless you want to change something massive, I don't know what you'd benefit from getting rid of him yet. I guess he could figure out things, but I've not been impressed with him so far. No more dividends. No more dividends for that dude that put 700 grand into it. So be careful. There's if you believe in semis, I mean, you could buy like a semi ETF. You don't have to specifically buy Intel. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Have fun with Intel. You still should wait. That's my final thought. It's not financial advice, but you just wait. Wait till they build the damn things. All right. How are they going to pay for it? Wait till they build them and they start getting customer orders. Then you'll have like a better picture of this thing. But you do what you want. I don't know if Foundry is going to help them. That's my question. This is all new territory. This is all new, that they're going to start producing other people's chips. They've never done this. So I think a lot of people that invested made grossly negligent assumptions on that going well, as like, oh, this is going to happen in this. And they just believed it. You didn't like think, okay, what if there's delays? What if this doesn't go according to what management's telling me? Don't take what they're saying at face value. You shouldn't. He doesn't deserve that credit. Jensen Huang, maybe you should believe him more, right? He has executed, not this guy. So whatever. And that's my story. So thank you for watching. Tell me what you think about Intel. I'm sorry that you bought it. So we will see you on the next video, which I don't know when it'll be, but what would we play? What will we outplay? Oh, let's do. I haven't done RoboCop outro in a while. Let me find it. Where did I put it? There it is. All right. Good night.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
I'll buy that.